Good morning, coffee moaners.
Good morning.
This is a somber coffee moaning today. We're not, really, we can only talk about the massacre in RAFAH last night. We feel a really strong sense of responsibility, actually, to sit here and talk about it because Western media have just seemed to have skimmed over the moment, haven't they? And politicians are on their bank holiday weekends, so they're all enjoying themselves. The White House is busy over the weekend.
It's the Memorial Day weekend, so it's a bank holiday. First things first. There is so much to potentially say. There is so much to discuss. There is so much to feel, and I just wanted to share exactly what you've just said, which is, I think, for a lot of people. I see more and more comments from people saying they don't or can't get any understanding or connection with people close to them in their lives and their day-to-day lives who want to relate with this, whether it be work colleagues, partners, family, parents, and colleagues, yeah. And so what this is about, this isn't about, necessarily even telling you anything new, but it is about discussing it, feeling it, sharing, I think, a collective grief and distress in the face of what feels like not just a literal genocide, but then an even, in some ways for me, more chilling silence and appeasement by our governments. And I just think so many people are feeling alone and are feeling a little bit like they're going mad. I do.
I feel like I'm going mad. So we're not going to be talking about anything else in this live today. So if it doesn't interest you, you'll be disappointed and maybe, do something else for the next half hour. But we do really want to hear from people that do, as Mark says, do feel alone with it and do feel like they haven't got, we get so many people. Hi, Zoe. We get so many people messaging us saying even their own partners they can't talk to about it. And it's just, I just find it, I can't imagine if I didn't have Mark, I just can't imagine, and my sister, and obviously my mum and dad, I would be going mad now, absolutely round the bend if I had no one to
my heart was breaking. Dina, bless her, contacted early this morning, and there are lots of people. I can think of so many people who. There are two things happening here. There are people who feel like.
Say what's happening.
Yeah, I was about to. Yeah. So there are people who are on their own with their feelings about this, but then there are also people kind of on their own, not witnessing or privy to the full news. So you'll only be getting bits of it or kind of the shards of it. What happened last night? I was literally on my way out, and I leapt from my chair with footage that I now know. Many of you who've contacted me on Instagram here, I can recognize your names, have subsequently seen, of what I can only describe as a scene from hell. As
to the point where some people might look at it and not even be able to believe it.
Well, I so much about this has traumatized us all in so many different ways in terms of, our sort of moral sort of fiber, our compass, our humanity, our frustration, our disbelief, all, and then last night I literally leapt up to a standing position and I caught myself. I was about to go and pick up one of my girls. And as I caught myself, I saw, and the trigger warning, we're not showing anything. We're not going to show any of the actual footage, but I am going to describe what I saw. I saw a charred body pulled from flames that looked so unbelievably unreal. I was staggered. I then saw the dismembered body of a child being held aloft by a parent. And then I saw another man being dragged on his front out of a fire. And this was in a UN-sanctioned place of safety for displaced people in RAFAH.
8 missiles were launched at it.
Well, yeah,
and all of those images I've seen will never recover from it. But a really strange image I saw as well, Mark, I don't know if you saw it. It was a man pulling down corrugated iron with his bare hands. Can you imagine how he burnt his hands were to try and get in, these are encampments, these were, the flames spread so fast and wide because these are made of plastic and cardboard and the warehouses as well, the people in warehouses. And I just keep thinking of that, the terror, the absolute terror of that. They've been displaced many times before. They've been told that they're going to be safe here. Plastic melting down onto your body. Only 8 beds in the hospital. because there just aren't any hospitals. And it was a scene of hell on earth. People were screaming. People were being burnt alive.
And so it looks like at least 40 civilians have died. At least, I think Motaz, the Palestinian photojournalist, is saying that the number is going to be much closer to 100.
Please follow Motaz.
They're still running through the debris. And we're going to talk through some of the stories, and how this story's evolved. Now, all of this has happened off the back of a week. I don't know if anyone else feels this. It feels like the week that the International Court of Justice said, cease and desist in Rafah, open the humanitarian corridor, stop doing what you're doing. It's as if Israel has been possessed by an even more strident determination to destroy and ravage Gaza than ever before. So
because what do you do when what does a spoilt child do when you tell them to stop? Tantrum. It's Owen Jones said this on the day after the ICJ ruling. Watch this now, world. This is a country having the biggest toddler tantrum you've ever seen. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. How dare you tell us anything?
But that's how we've described it all along. This is the teen. This is the toddler. This is the infant, the baby that was pacified without any consequences for its behavior. And this is now the strident teenager rampaging all over the place, smashing shit about, unable to kind of fucking pull its shit together. Now, one of the big problems with all of this is it feels like Israel's gone nuts in response to the ICJ. They've gone hard. They've killed yet more innocent civilians. Their argument is that this is partly because rockets were fired by Hamas yesterday towards Tel Aviv. A word that's been used a lot in recent weeks is don't you dare draw an equivalence between Israel and Hamas, or Israel and what happened on October the 7th, or Israel's self-defense. And so given the fact that Israel have freely thrown the word equivalence into the kind of bear pit of terms that we can play with.
And there's been many very, very, very highly qualified international lawyers that have said that isn't what the ICJ are doing. That's not how it works. You don't draw an equivalence. These are two separate cases.
And in fact, the guy at the ICJ who's brought this case for the arrest warrants has said this isn't about equivalence. This is about individual acts.
Yeah.
This is about acts, regardless of who.
That's the narrative they want you to believe.
But okay, well, let's just go with the Israeli. This is the thing you've got to do. You've got to roll with this. So equivalence is a word we can use, Israel. All right. Well, there's nothing.
You said it first.
There's nothing equivalent to rockets that hit nothing and killing at least 40 innocents in a place that you have actively identified with GPS and messaging to the United Nations and UNRWA that this is a safe place.
But they've used the line that they always use. With all the hospitals, with all the schools, with all the universities, with all the homes, what do they always use? Hamas was there. Hamas was in the ambulance. Hamas was in the car with the little girl Hind. Do you remember her? It was Hamas. It's Hamas.
I just want to use this analogy because I can't remember who it was yesterday. A couple of days ago, someone else used the analogy of the IRA. And I was so relieved because I've been using this analogy from the get-go. My line on that is when the IRA, which was, the prescribed terrorist organization that was attacking Britain, bombing, innocents, awful acts of violence, there was never at any point in Britain or the UK's response to the IRA, it would never have been considered that you would drop a £200 or £2,000 bomb on Belfast to get one or two IRA operatives. It would be inconceivable. It would be utterly preposterous. It would be disproportionate. The consequences and the collateral damage would be so extreme. And so I want that analogy. A lot of people say, what do we do? What do we say? How do we do it? What do we do? You keep ramming equivalences into people's faces and you say, is this equivalent? Is this equivalent? Because it isn't equivalent. Rockets being fired at Tel Aviv, which is going to be the narrative now. You wait until Memorial Day weekend is going to be over and all those really supercilious press officers are going to be at the White House saying, well, they got two Hamas operatives and they were firing in return for the missiles that were fired. I'll tell you what's happened there. No damage was done by the missiles. Israel is incandescent that Hamas has essentially said to them, you have got nowhere in your war. You have got nowhere in your attempt to control them. And that's what this is about. This is fury. And it speaks to the fact that no amount of this bombing is going to resolve this. Mm-hmm. So so that's the equivalence word. If you want equivalence, there's zero equivalence between, the rockets that have been fired and what's happened yesterday, as there has now become zero equivalence between October the 7th and what has happened since. Zero. There is a term in warfare called proportionate. It used to be used a lot when Israel used to go into Gaza over previous decades and do what they call mow the lawn. That's how they refer to it. Let's go into Gaza and mow the lawn. That's the phraseology. Let's go into Gaza and mow the lawn. So, what really got me last night was I leapt up, just going back to because I'm sure everyone was feeling this. I saw so many people's comments when Nadia posted her post, incredibly powerful, just from the heart, as she felt it, as she saw it. I've not actually been thrust into tears yet, despite, one can sit and think about something and be saddened by it, as we have been all the way through this. I was so shocked to my core last night. I left to go and pick up one of my girls, and I was in tears.
You know why as
it
well,
was
Mark?
So
because
shocking.
We were hopeless. We knew it wouldn't be covered. We said what we'd be fed about it. Israel comes out straight away and says, yeah, we did it. Did it because Hamas was there. We knew that's what would be said today. And so we are now desperate. It's like a post I saw today, it's not free Palestine anymore, it's save Palestine. And I just feel like now it's just not going to stop. It's just, there's nothing that is going to stop this.
Sabrina Jones, you're absolutely right. Sorry to say this, it's not on people's doorstep, and they are able to switch it off. I think someone will save those people. No one is. We must stand up for them. I think what's absolutely unforgivable.
I think you're right. People do. People are involved in their lives and busy with their lives. And we are so engaged in it and have been right from day one. For those people that might be new here, my father is Jordanian. I love my Jordanian side, very proud of it. So we were initially, we've known the story for a very long time. We've had family that have been thrown out of their homes, and so we have a history with it. I think the real now it's very, very dangerous for people to just completely disengage, because on the marches we chant, in our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. And it's true. This can happen anywhere, because we are, the highest courts in the world are being poo-pooed at. They're being threatened by the biggest superpower in the world, threatened for carrying out the letter of the law. We are in an extremely dangerous place, the entire world. And that's what we mean when we say in our thousands, in our billions, we're all Palestinians. Because in the face, right in front of everybody, the most heinous crimes are being committed day in, day out. And so what? That's what they say. Don't think for a minute that couldn't happen to us the other way around, because it could. It could.
Yeah, and just find, some other thoughts on this. It's not at all coincidental that this is all happening on a bank holiday weekend in both the UK and the US, Israel's two staunchest allies.
Massacres on the Super Bowl, massacres on the Oscars.
This is transparent genocide. Anyone getting a little bit offended with the word genocide, sorry, mate.
Get over it. Get over it because the top expert, who's the guy that you experts across the world are calling this a genocide.
60 humanitarian aid charities or organizations, human rights organizations, have signed a letter to Joe Biden asking him to stop the American government's attempts to intimidate and sanction the members of the International Court. The idea that we have an Al Capone-style racketeering bullying procedure being talked about in public by senior members of the American government, for me, is a moment equivalent to the worst moments in a narrative about the most dystopian end of human life. To hear American senators talking in the manner that they are about an international court of justice because it doesn't suit them that it's basically targeting Israel. You know, I've got this meme here that I want to show you at some point, which is all this fuss and all this stories and all the talk and everything around the American election about Russian interference, Chinese interference. Let me just quickly ping 18 seconds of this to you. So they're telling us Russia interfered with the elections. Oh, look, this is Israel's support of all of the members of Congress, all of the broadcasters. Wow, this is their representation. But nobody mentions that the US is literally Israel's bitch.
Well, I think Israel is America's bitch. I think Israel is America, slap bang in the middle of the Middle East, where the land is so rich with oil and everything else that they want. America is Israel. Yep. Israel is America. And I started out all of this thinking it was the other way around, but actually, Israel is America's bitch.
One of the most unforgivable aspects
being used.
And one of the most unforgivable aspects of last night was, given it was a bank holiday weekend, isn't it interesting, on a Sunday night of a bank holiday as well? Not the Saturday night, not the Friday night, because where you're coming in. Hang on. And last night, this news landed, the footage was coming in, not the Guardian, not the Independent, was running this for an hour and a half, but social media was on it, and they want to stop it.
And this is why they want. But you know, we had a day off yesterday, a bit. We did some work in the morning, and then we did an unusual thing. We turned our phones off. We never turn our phones off, but we were watching something together. We were exhausted, drained actually from the emotional. And then, of course, as is our way, we put it on. Mark put it on, and we discovered this. And I thought, oh my God, that's what the world. That's what. But
no. We didn't turn it on. It came on my phone.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It came to you on your phone.
It wasn't on telly.
No,
it wasn't anywhere to be seen.
You turned your phone on, and there it was. And this is why they want to knock social media.
Yeah, because they're not covering it.
Because they don't want 24/7
They're not covering it. And in fact, the only way the Telegraph, the Times, Sky News, ITV News, the only way they've covered this is first line. After Hamas fires rockets, Israel kills 40 civilians.
That's it.
The connection there is, for people who are passing through news quickly and don't have the intimate knowledge of it all, they just go, oh, well done. An unfortunate Hamas. Consequence.
Yeah, that's Hamas. Well, you go and look at the bloody videos.
No, right, the point, Laura Lou, the point about the bank holiday is it's an excuse and an opportunity. Not everyone's going about their normal existences, of course, but it's an opportunity for governments and for journalists. It's a go slow, whether you like it or not. It's a go slow, and there is a knowledge of that. There is a knowledge of that in the news flow, and the hope will be that Keir Starmer, with whatever piece of shit he's talking about today, number 6, change, he's there live. If he was any way half decent a humanitarian lawyer,
that's what he is.
That's what he is. He's defined by humanitarian law. His first thing he should have done today was say, after in the light of what the awful tragedies of last night, our thoughts
of the innocent people,
with the innocents, and also he could have made a little gesture there to the Muslim voters that are leaving him in their droves.
And the non-Muslim voters that are leaving in there. We're not Muslim. We are never ever going to vote for the Labour Party while he is in power.
Absolutely.
And we were Labour supporters.
Keir Starmer is a genocide appeaser.
He said it was okay to turn the water off. He said it was okay.
It's as plain and simple
as that. Whatever has happened, he has trotted out the same goddamn line. Oh, come on, please, God.
He was talking about how English a Sussex village was today. Now a lot of people do contact, and a couple of people have contacted me directly and said, but look, this doesn't, I know it affects your family very much. I know you're involved with it. This doesn't speak to the ordinary Briton's everyday concerns.
Of course it does.
And of course, no one thing eclipses everything else in someone's life. I have no issue with someone who has no information on it, no opinion on it, but also isn't then having a huge opinion on other things that are like it, equivalent, let's use that word again, to it, or seeks to kind of take one side without any education or any information.
Just keep saying.
Classic example being, you banged on about Ukraine. Why aren't you banging on about this?
But it's also, if like one more person says to me, there was a peace before October the 7th, it's like, just go away and educate yourself a bit and then come and have a chat. Or ask me. I'm not one of these that, oh, well, unless you find, ask me. Ask me why. Ask me why I feel the way that I do. Because, you know, so many of the extreme nasty people will will talk on and demand that we say whatever it is they want us to say about October the 7th. But they would never mention anything about the people that have been murdered, slaughtered since. No. Because they're not relevant to the story, you see, because they're brown people and they're not relevant. And that's as simple as that. So, you know. Yeah. But I think we should read out some comments. How are you feeling? That's what we want to know. How are you feeling? Is there anybody here that's feeling they don't have anyone that they can talk to about it?
Well, a lot of comments are coming through now because we are talking about how the parties are not representing you. And like Leah Allen says here, who can we vote for to get the Tories out, but not Labour? Can it be done? Well, I think what you're talking to there, Leah, is you're butting up against the actual lack of democracy in our system. And I've always said, you know, people go, oh, what are you kind of, why don't you, you know, the classic, my granddad used to say it to my mum actually years ago, why don't you go and live in Russia if you love them so much? That's what, you know, he wouldn't say it like that, but it's kind of what he would always indicate. And they'd have huge rows. And I'd be like, wow, it's my mum's a commie. What's going on here? By the way, Nanny Di's upstairs watching. But yeah, so, you know, that whole, you know, the whole idea of us having representation, we have none. There is zero representation in government.
I literally don't know what I'm going to do.
PR is the only way. And people always go, oh, Liberal Democrats ask for proportional. It sounds dry and boring. No, it doesn't. Proportional representation actually allows you, with whatever political opinion you hold it at its strongest, because the system then allows it to be moderated because you have to find a conciliatory agreement with other points of view. It's a brilliant checks and balances to not having only one narrative that is thrown at us.
The trouble is the two main parties are always in and they're always going to say no to it because it would mean they have some competition, which they don't want. They just want a swapsy.
We're in it's such a con. It's such a bloody con. And it's such a different con to so many other different democracies that there are. Ours is one of the most gaslit cons there is in democratically free countries. We are so sold a lie. And Keir Starmer, this is where our disappointment with Keir Starmer is so extraordinary. What he's done is taken, and he said it proudly today, he said, I've taken the Labour Party and listened and moved it in the right direction. Hang on, you've become the Tory light. So you believe in nothing. You believe in nothing and you'll say anything, essentially. And then whatever they tell us, they won't stick to. So do we all genuinely sit there going, oh, well, on their manifesto, it says A, B, C, and D, when the manifesto gets hurled out the fucking window as soon as they walk through the door? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But Israel. So here's the interesting thing. What was America's reward or response to the ICJ announcing that they needed to stop in Rafah? Can anyone guess what? Did anyone remember from the news flow late last week? What was actually America's response? They're going to invite Netanyahu to talk to Congress. They're going to bring a war criminal potentially.
That's their sport child again. You've been really, really naughty, but tell you what, come and have a nice big cream cake and a nice big frothy hot chocolate, and you can sit on my knee and we'll soothe you. That's what they've done. Quite
astonishing. Israel's representative in the UN has said to Spain, do not, because Spain, Norway and Ireland are going to recognise Palestine as an independent state on the 28th. Israel's punishment for Spain is twofold. They've said, right, we're going to stop your representatives in the consulate in East Jerusalem. We're going to stop your people, Spanish people, having any contact with Palestinians. They're going to stop that. So a little bit of potential war there with Spain going on. But he then also said, to kind of double down on this, at the end of the day,
in our millions, we are all Palestinians. Remember that line.
But then the Israeli representative at the UN then brought up the Spanish Inquisition, saying your history isn't good for persecuting Muslims and Jews. Now, hang on, we're looking at 600 years ago.
He brought up the Spanish Inquisition.
He did. Yeah. And then I thought, well, hang on a minute. You're having to go back 600 years to bring up great, horrendous kind of reoccupation and Nakbas and removal of hang on a minute, we only have to go back 70
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to go back 600,
continuously
we'll go back
right
70.
up until now.
I think the other thing, just quickly, I just want to say this as well. When this all kicked off at the beginning, a lot of people were kind of coming at people like us and other people saying, but you're sort of, no one was excusing October the 7th, but lots of people who have an involvement or a connection with the Middle East were entirely unsurprised before October the 7th that Netanyahu has done everything he's done since. We knew what he was like before because we've seen it happen before. We knew about his funding of Hamas. So when people say you've just responded to October the 7th in support of what? No. It's a travesty. And as Bassem, the wonderful Egyptian, horrendous. No justification for the killing of innocents. But to pretend that this has happened in isolation and on its own, we knew it hadn't when it happened. And it's important to say that because so many people have crashed in on this. And so many people, and especially Zionists, are seeking to tell you that this all started on October the 7th.
Does anybody believe that? And does anybody still believe that, really?
I don't think they believe it, but it's what they keep popping on Twitter.
Thank God I'm not on Twitter.
Yeah, I think thank God you're not on Twitter.
Well, I am. But
well, you are. But, I mean, that could have been it's just...
It's only 5% of the population on Twitter, folks. So remember, when Twitter's in a Twitter state or in a Twitter rage, 5% of the population.
And also, just finally on that,
Hi, Carla.
Prior to the establishment of Israel, Palestinian Jews, and this has been talked about a lot, and there are still Jewish people in Israel who believe this.
Was that
Palestinian Jews did not believe, Jewish people who were in the Middle East before the State of Israel, a huge number of them, the vast majority of them, did not believe in the creation of an Israeli state. Just to let you know, tonight,
Shelley. Yes, Gaza, thank you for reminding us that, because Dina told us that last week. I'd forgotten about that.
Well done, Shelley.
We need to watch. Thank you, Shelley. Thanks.
Very good. Do you want me to show this Bassem clip?
No, because you didn't think. Is it the whole one?
I've managed to. Yeah. Shall I?
Because you thought it was a bit too long, didn't you?
No, I think.
Okay.
Well,
let's just give some context to Bassem. Bassem is he's Egyptian. He's married to a Palestinian. He is an extremely smart man. He was a doctor, and then he shifted to become a comedian. Hilarious. What a shift from a doctor to comedian.
Wonderful.
And he has become a real spokesperson for the Palestinians over the last 8 months. Reluctantly, he kind of, it just sort of happened to him, didn't he? Many of you follow him on here. He's a brilliant brain. And he's given almost everyone I've ever seen a run for their money, including peers.
Reese Roberts, just briefly on this, just want to bring this up. Hi, Reese, sending you lots of love. There's so many series of events such as 1948 White Paper, the bombing of Hotel David, that predate the October the 7th. Apparently, if you do, someone did this experiment with a chatbot where when they said, what was the first terrorist attack in the Middle East? And apparently it was by a group of Zionists, and I think it was that hotel.
Yeah, I remember. Not remember the event, but I remember my family talking about that event.
Okay. So shall I show this?
Yes, do. I'm just looking for something else.
Shall I show it whilst you're looking for it?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about October 7th. October 7th is a atrocity. It's a terrorist attack. It's terrible. Anthony Blinken went in front of Congress and he testified about an incident.
A family of 4, a young boy and girl, 6 and 8 years old, and their parents around the breakfast table. The father, his eye gouged out in front of his kids. The mother's breast cut off. The girl's foot amputated. The boy's fingers cut off before they were executed. And then their executioners sat down and had a meal.
That is a direct testimony from Zaka and Hadzullah United.
They killed the husband first. They took his eyes out. I saw the body by myself. They cut the breast of the woman. They cut the leg of girl.
2 relief groups from Israel that they have actually been exposed that all of the stuff that they said has been lies. They've collected more than $50 million of donations.
Our volunteers, when they came into the homes and they saw the children beheaded. If they were not busy raping women, they would have continued to Jerusalem.
Because of these unverified lies, and this has been reported by the Israeli media, Haaretz, Channel 13, in Time of Israel.
ושם תופסות אותי עוד 2 תמונות, באמת, חוץ מתום אין שם שום דבר אחר, שנשחטו ופשוט הרגו אותם.
אתה רואה את הילדים?
בית, 8 תינוקות. 8 תינוקות מתים.
נרצחו 8 תינוקות במעון בבארי מבהיר. ילדים, תינוקות שנתלו על חבל כביסה ממש בשורה אחת.
אנחנו בכפר עזה, אבל לכפר עזה הבהירו מזמן שהאירוע הזה פשוט לא קרה.
Pregnant women, cut open.
גם זה לא קרה. לראות שגם בייחוד הצלה הפיצו בזמנו את הסיפור הפיקטיבי על כך שתינוק הושם בתוך תנור.
You've seen burn body. But in the same time in Israel, people talk about the Hannibal Directive, where the Israelis went in and indiscriminately, they shot Hellfire missiles from Apache. They shot shells from tanks. There is an Israeli survivor. Her name is Yasmin Porat. She came on a podcast and she talked about being in a house with 14 other hostages and 40 terrorists and said everybody was alive. And then the Israelis started to shooting all the 40 terrorists and 12 out of the 14 hostages were killed. That's an 85% kill rate.
טרוריסטים ירו בהם?
לא.
כל זה כוחותינו ירו בהם? כשניסו את החמאס?
כולם, כולל הבני ערובה.
Now, let's talk about the decapitated babies. According to the official Israeli records, one baby was killed, Mila Cohen, 10 months, 12 children from the age to 2 to 9, 36 from the age from 12 to 19, a total of 49 innocent children who should never have been killed or even touched on that day. The biggest casualty was 421 people from the age of 20 or 40. The total number of people that killed with that day, 1,129 people. 373 of them were police and military, and 759 civilians. No rape, no decapitation, nothing. All of these were refuted. Even the New York Times piece and the Guardian retracted them because they were taken for rights. Does it make it less horrific that there are just 759 just killed, most of them killed by firepower from the Israeli? No, it's still horrific. But you created that image so people now are prepared and prepped to go in and kill everyone. This is blind rage. The 40 decapitated baby became a myth and everybody now believes. So if I talk about them, nobody wants to
I don't think everybody believes.
But it was used as an emotional way to suck money, 50 million, and to allow people to say, all right, go and kill everybody. Right now, as we're speaking, the uncles and the cousins of my children in Gaza, they have lost all of their homes. They are still alive. They are all now cramped in one apartment, in one building in Rafah. And as we speak, one bomb can drop on them right now, annihilating my whole family. And that happened because of lies that were propagated, making people accept that Israel can go and do whatever they want.
They took the eyes out.
Raping women.
The mother's breast cut off.
And pregnant women cut open.
Are you seriously keep on asking me about Palestinian civilians? What's wrong with you?
That's a shameful anti-Semitic equation.
When the ICC investigates Israel for fake war crimes, this is pure anti-Semitism.
From the river to the sea is anti-Semitic.
Those calling for a ceasefire are legitimizing anti-Semitism.
Just as an incidental detail here, a number of former American military personnel have said and gone and said off the record and on the record, what you have to understand is that the senior command of the IDF are the most profound liars in the world. It's well known in intelligence circles that Israel and the IDF lie.
Mark, the thing is, also, they've posted so much. They have told us everything that they're going to do. Look at the IDF Instagram, TikTok accounts. Look at the government officials that go onto television and say they've said it all. A siege, we will squeeze them out, we will exterminate them like rats, we will not give them water, we will not give them electricity, we will not give them food. They've said it all. So if there are lies, there is also the truth. Constantly they've told us the truth. And like as a mother and father with a spoiled child, when the child's going screaming and saying what they're doing and the parent is covering up for them, that's what's happening. I mean, I know it's a really basic analogy, but that's the only one I can keep thinking of. They're telling us what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. The most, Egypt has just 26 minutes ago condemned Israel's deadly strike on Rafah. I mean, the relationship...
Could we have a bit more from the Middle East,
Yeah, we need a lot more from the Middle East.
We need something.
UNRWA tells CNN no place is safe in Gaza. As I say, Spain, Norway, Belgium is appealing to every member of the EU to sing from the same song sheet in unison. I think we're going to see potentially a huge split in Europe, or huge-ish, where they're just simply saying, and what are we saying? We're in this curious situation where we're now, to say the word ceasefire was hateful. And now to say, observe the rules of the International Court of Justice regarding not committing a genocide is somehow batting against the team. We are in a curiously fucked up, morally illogical age. We are morally lost. It's the frustration for me is words, intellect, arguments, cleverness, analysis, history is being ignored.
It was, what was it last week that Netanyahu said, a new anti-Semitism. And as you said, Mark, that it was so scary, that line, because what he was referring to there was the educate. These are, the ICJ are highly respected, educated, incredibly smart people, and he's trying to knock the intellects. Now we have to be suspicious of. And the thing is, why does he need a new anti-Semitism? Why? Because he's overused that word so much. He's disrespected that word. And you will see that time and again from Jews that are furious with how he's overused that word. It's a very important word. It's a very serious word, that is there for protection. And he's made it, he just says it for anything. So now he's going to have a new one, a new anti-Semitism.
So his new anti-Semitism is an assault on intelligence, analysis, or critical thinking. No one is allowed to be critical of Netanyahu. I'll say it again. I'll say it one more time, Benjamin Netanyahu and any of your cronies. Perhaps people really just don't like you.
And what
maybe
you're doing,
a really horrible
maybe it's
person.
got nothing to do with the fact that you're Jewish.
Yeah.
It's got to do with the sociopathic way you have murdered thousands of people and completely destroyed their lives. Schools, universities, hospitals, homes, gone.
Absolutely. Just finally, I just want to say, obviously, UK and the US made Rafah their red line. Cross this red line, and, well, they never really said what they do because they weren't ever really going to do anything. What they're saying now is, and this is curious,
what are they saying?
What the Americans are saying now is, we haven't yet seen any evidence of a major assault on Rafah.
Major.
This moment is a critical moment that they'll be hoping, as will Israel, and let's not for a minute think possibly it happened, but they're going to be hoping that the intensity of this news story has diminished by early tomorrow morning or whatever it is.
Bored and moved on.
Jewish Voice for Peace say genocide must end after the Rafah massacre. That's the Jewish Voice for Peace. And there was another piece here I just wanted to mention. As they say, Palestinians killed and maimed in an area they were told to evacuate to. Don't forget, everyone who was killed last night was told to go there by Israel. This is a war crime.
And this is where you will hear the line, the most moral army in the world, when Netanyahu says it, because what they always say is, we leafleted people. We contacted them directly on their mobile phone because they send out these mass messages, right? And so that's where they feel okay. But that doesn't stop them doing everything that they were going to do.
It's like that
and you've got people saying, where do we go? Children screaming into the cameras. Where should we go? There's nowhere left for us to go.
It's like that stand-up comic the other day said, you drop letters in to tell them you're going to kill them. That's like a serial killer.
That's not moral.
That's sociopathic.
I really want us to read out some comments of how people are feeling. So we'll open the floor now to tell us, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Irene Gregory, sadly, Israel is going way too far, but Hamas are not helping the Palestinian people either. The problem with the whole Hamas-Israel, nothing that Hamas, any innocent that gets killed by either side, it's utterly reprehensible. But to come into this conversation pretending that what's driven a lot of people towards Hamas isn't Israel's occupation is a joke. So you can't really get into the equivalences. Where are the equivalences? And it's the idea that we have all sung from the same song sheet about October the 7th, but we've still got people on the Israeli side still wanting to suggest that October the 7th was worse than everything that's happened since. And it just isn't.
It just isn't. And the thing is, I don't understand why people aren't terrified by the mass radicalization that will be going on. Children have lost their entire families. Who's going to look after them? Who is going to look after them? Because don't forget, no aid's being allowed in, and aid workers are not coming in because it's now too dangerous. Who's going to look after those children, do we think? Hamas. That's where they'd be taken in.
Leah Allen, Islamophobia is so important. I've heard justifications based on pure Islamophobia. These people are barbaric. They do worse if allowed. It's absolutely sickening. And this is really important. This is the language of colonialists. This is the language of the so-called civilized describing the savages. And that's why the stories that Bassem was just debunking just then and have been debunked that the New York Times reported regarding the original atrocities.
Retracting those.
A really key part of this narrative, and some very sort of obvious individuals in our country who are Zionists try and really mine this little kind of avenue a lot. They want to use the savagery of one side versus the kind of, the moral. The morality,
it's the white
murdering.
White man and the black or brown man, isn't it?
Yeah.
What they do is savagery, and whatever they do is self-defense, no matter what it is. Yeah. Somebody messaged me under my Instagram post yesterday and said, "Oh my God, I've just had a half-hour row with a psychopath who's been trying to convince me that that the baby hasn't been beheaded because the head came away with a bomb."
So we're getting into.
And I said, "Oh God. I bet you that person will also say, well, if you're going to be in a tent, you're going to get burnt alive, aren't you? It's going to go up in flames really quick." This is the kind of madness we're dealing with. You know.
To take a head off. Here's the fallacy. A great quote, Christos. Here's the fallacy. So the lie of the severed baby head is savagery, barbarism, and a reason for the all-out destruction and carpet bombing of an entire people. The head coming off a child due to a missile fired from a plane is
not equivalent.
Self-defense and unfortunate. And I'm sure we're going to hear the Americans say their favorite word at the moment is concerned. They're concerned.
I have not heard, and maybe I'm wrong, and if anybody has heard it, then please do tell me. I've not heard Biden or anyone in his group of cronies mention once a single child, Palestinian child.
No.
That's not one. Has anybody else?
Well, it's interesting.
But does that not prove, wait a minute, Mark, does that not prove 100% racism? That is racism to me. I mean, what is the value? Is it 1 million brown babies for one white baby? What is it? How do we, but at what point might one of those children have a name? Because they always make a point of giving the names of any white person, but never a brown, but they don't have. I am desperate to know the name of this baby who lost their head accidentally, or whatever anybody wants to say. I want to know that child's name. That child, why are
that
the
child?
names?
But that child died. It wasn't killed.
It wasn't killed.
That child, because it's Palestinian. That child died.
It died by accident when a bomb hit it.
Joanne Connolly, it scares me as a Scot human. This could easily be us. No one is safe. Highlighted by the Prime Minister listing individuals which for independence alongside terrorists. Blinken went into great detail there about a family sat at a table. I wonder if he's gone into any detail.
I've never heard.
Tens of thousands that have died at various tables.
Really, I'm not being facetious when I say if I'm not, because I haven't heard everything they've said, but everything I've ever seen, I've never heard a single mention.
Shafi Saif, anyone who brings up Hamas is trying to justify what's happening. It's interesting what you say there. If your first response to atrocities is to seek to justify in any way,
you can't.
Because no one justifies the actual killing of innocents on October the 7th either.
I wouldn't.
No one justifies it, but you have to understand it. You have to understand the political and historical situation that led to it, rather than the pretense that these are barbarian savages. We are dealing with basic white
since
supremacy.
October the 7th, has there been a single savage situation? Has any of it felt like savagery? I would love to hear somebody say no. Not a single thing since you could describe in any way as barbaric.
Stephanie Sant, Netanyahu helped create and fund Hamas. He funded it to 1.5 billion. Everyone who goes on about Hamas wants to circumnavigate the rather inconvenient truth and details of Israel's leader. It's like, well, okay, let's have a conversation about the rights and wrongs on both sides. If you fully listen to and understand the culpability of the Israeli government in this.
And let's not forget the West Bank.
The West Bank is just, well, I'll tell you what's happening in the West Bank. It's really, there are narcissists in power. They don't have empathy. Yeah, Reese, I did see that other footage. Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember what was it that Keir Starmer said. We're being asked all the time to look at videos as politicians. Well, maybe you should look at a bloody few.
But hang on a minute. Every single British politician and politician in America was singing the praises of Facebook during the Arab Spring.
Weren't they?
Oh. Suddenly,
and they all saw photos and you know, what's his bloody name? Biden saw a photo.
Yeah.
Didn't he? So he was shown a photo. We then discovered there was no such photo.
Yeah.
But they can't look at any other videos.
Miriam, absolutely. We've talked about the history of this so many times on the channel. We're well aware. Yeah, no, we know the Balfour Treaty. We know the origin. We know the claim that Jewish people were there. The point is that the ancient medieval, prehistoric claim to Jewish claim on the earth, even people from that sort of descent, who descend from the original Palestinian Jews, they didn't, at the time of the creation of Israel, want or believe in the creation of a state. They didn't see it as necessary. They didn't see it as necessary. It was the European side. It was Europeans trying to trying to kind of resolve the awfulness of what happened in World War II, but in the process have created a totally equivalent, awfulness. This is a genocide. This is a genocide. It doesn't have the same optics. And one of the important thing about genocide atrocities and genocide historians is they always point to, well, it doesn't look like that genocide. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
Who else? How are you feeling, guys?
Why is nothing ever done about war crimes, Laura Lou, Ukraine, Russia, and Israel?
Well, I think things are when it suits the superpower. That is America, isn't it? The game all goes via America. Yeah. It's a game. It's a massive game across the world. They got to be seriously careful.
It really is like a scene out of Terminator. The weirder it's real life, we seem not to be able to do anything about it. BSE Games, what you're talking to is I feel strangulated with an inability. The fact that you can have our leaders standing up today in any capacity not mentioning this is frightening. It's I just want to make this point. So the Labour Party are talking today about the fact that they're going to instigate what they call a 100-day security check to work out what all the dangers are, because they're worried that Tory voters don't think that the Labour Party can protect the country. But what they're going to do is they're going to do this real sort of deep dive into how vulnerable we are as a country. I can tell Keir Starmer one thing straight. If you had dealt with this crisis differently, we would be safer.
Yeah.
Everyone in the world would be safer if you dealt with this crisis differently, rather than brown-nosing Rishi Sunak's government and the lobbyists that keep paying for you all. Outrageous, outrageous, outrageous Labour Party. I'm not surprised by the Tories when they show their true colours, because their true colours are always out. What I don't like is the pretense.
We can't really get over it, can we?
I can't recover.
I've stood up for him loads of times, and quoted that he's a humanitarian lawyer and all of that.
A joke.
Selective
humanitarianism.
Oh, Zoe keeps bursting in tears. Don't know where to put all these feelings. I know, darling.
Steph Schultz as well, the lies and excuses. This makes me so angry.
I know.
It is.
It's such a mixture of. I feel I get sort of frozen with it.
I totally agree.
And there's so, like things, silly things. Like I always kind of look forward to going to the gym because it's a place to sort of get rid of. And yet, I feel almost like I can't go to the gym today, and I was going to do that, and I can't do that, and I can't because I feel like frozen. It's like it's like a state of panic and shock. And when people say to me, you really must look after yourself, Nadine, you really must I say, do you realise there's a burning fucking building literally now, and there are people screaming for us to put it out? That's how I see the whole of Gaza. And just, it feels so difficult to get on with, but of course we must get on with our life, and we must go to the gym, and we must do what we were going to do, and we must find a way to switch on when we can, and that means doing whatever feels right for you. Push past the people that say to you, I don't want to hear anything, not with anger, but try and engage them in a conversation. Maybe text or WhatsApp, friendship groups or friends that you feel haven't engaged with you at all, and you feel like there's some distance that's come between you. I've done that. I've had some I've had some really moving moments in the last week with people that have finally reached out to me, but also I can understand, and I've admitted that maybe I'm a bit scary to talk to because I don't want to hear anything about what you've got to understand. This. No. I'm in a state of wanting to save family. That's how I feel about it. So all I want from my friends is to listen to me and to sometimes say, it must be really hard for you, and it must be hard for your dad, and my dad who's 90 and Jordanian. And whenever we talk about anything, my dad's sort of like, he sort of folds in on himself.
Yeah, he absolutely does.
And it's so heartbreaking. So, you could reach out to people and say, I just need you sometimes to listen. Can I sometimes talk? I'm not saying, because I think a lot of people don't engage with us because they're worried that they don't know enough about it. So it's all right to say, listen, it's okay if you don't know much about it, but can I just let go of some of this stuff? Also, go to marches where you can. Do keep emailing MPs. I know that they don't get back to us and all of that, but just to do that, and that is all we can do. But we have to be able to switch on and switch off a bit, otherwise we're all going to go mad.
Yeah, I think the advice Nadia gives is the great advice of a sort of it's maternal. It really is. My thinking on this is if you find yourself entering the conversations or someone asking why, say to them, I think before you go into it or enter the conversation, and then we all get triggered by someone's insensitivity or lack of interest or their assumed ignorance, say to them, if you're asking me for sure, do you want me to answer honestly? Because it's not a simple one-word answer. It's not a simple one-sentence answer. If you really care about me, can you let me just offload a bit?
But I'm so glad you have got somebody, Lou, because it's very, very hard, isn't it? Catherine Jones, I feel guilty that we can eat and go about our day when they're suffering so much. The first thing I think about when I wake up, why don't the powers that be feel that way? I know what you mean. And again, I go through that. I'll be like, and I'll say something to I've got this ongoing dialogue in my head, and I might think like something silly. I thought I must get some new, summer shoes. I haven't really got any summer shoes. And then I caught myself and I went, what are you talking about getting yourself? Do you really need new summer shoes? And it's mad because we have to still get on with our lives. But I know how you feel because I do that all the time. So it's like us feeling guilty about our lives helps no one. That's the facts.
I really want to read this comment, and as Dina says, there is a protest. There is a protest march or demonstration on Downing Street tonight at 5 o'clock in London.
And there's a PSC one tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Somebody said here as well.
Right, Jackie Pugh. I just want to read this. This was really important. The re-education of the masses and the youth is labelled as woke if it's a bad thing.
So true.
That's how the media try to spin it. Being woke is bad. We are waking up. We challenge the establishment. This is why, for me, when I see headlines like National Service and the Labour Party talking about 100 days, what they're doing here, what they're doing here is James cleverly said we want to bring the youth out of their bubble. How dare youngsters have thoughts for themselves or have opinions for themselves, and how dare an entire generation, and this is what this speaks to. This is the fear being felt. This is why TikTok's being removed from America. They are petrified that an entire generation, and it's creeping towards older people, I'd say most of the people in this chat room are probably there too, we are all learning to get our news sources never from one place. Go back to the New York Times article that spread all of the disinformation and lies. The problem with that was they used an inexperienced journalist and she didn't verify any of her facts. That's why the New York Times article about the atrocities was debunked. She didn't check her facts. There was no rigor. It is our responsibility to check more than one source and to check a story and cross-reference a story as best as we can. It's made challenging by the fact that the mainstream media simply ignores so much of it. But the point the government is dealing with here is they are running scared because the vast majority of people are not getting the information the way the government wants us to get the information. And I hate to say it for any Labour voters here, Keir Starmer is cut from exactly the same cloth. And whatever happens, whenever Labour get in, even when there's a smidgen of hope, they twist, they turn, and they become even more the thing they endeavoured and said they weren't going to be. So for me, what is the answer? What is the answer? Spoil your vote. Vote green. What are the answers? I haven't got any answers for that. It's just it's frustrating. James Flanagan, let's see what you've got to say.
I've just found the rally. Just 1 second. So it's tomorrow. What day is it? Monday. Yeah. Tomorrow is emergency rally. Tomorrow is 6 o'clock opposite Downing Street. So if anyone can make that, 6 o'clock tomorrow opposite Downing Street.
Brilliant.
And you can go to the Palestine Solidarity UK Instagram account to find out more.
James Flanagan, I've shared a lot of content you've shared. It's been brought up within my friendship groups, even brought up in conversation in the pub. Still, some people are unaware of the extent. And
but you've done that.
Brilliant.
That's so brilliant.
And I think one of the important things to say is that is all you.
That's the power
that's
of the
all
people.
you can do, and we can do is keep it alive.
What is it they say? What can one person do? Said how many people? What is it? How many people are there in the world? Exactly. Billion people. That is how it works. Ripple, ripple, ripple. That is how we can go from powerless to powerful, is to many ripples. It's the Buddhist thinking as well. Ripple on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah. And anyone who is in Islington North or Jeremy Corbyn's seat, vote for Jeremy Corbyn. Especially in this day, Reece, and age where you've got misinformation and disinformation, you've got to use your own discernment to sift through and collate your information on verified sources, even opposing. Absolutely. It's why I resent, but will continue to stay subscribed to the Daily Telegraph.
And me to the Mail.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, I hope that was helpful in some way, just so that you don't feel you're actually going insane, because you're not going insane. What is happening is deeply disturbing, deeply hypocritical, jaundiced, amoral, immoral, unforgivable, disgusting, despicable, disproportionate, and utterly unequivalent. Do not, this is... And, the fact that the West are actually inhabiting the role of someone like Al Capone. They're putting in the heavies. They're putting in the heavies to try and they're threatening an international
the judges.
court.
Think about that. Threatening. Right. And guys, really important thing. Somebody was just saying there, not enough stuff comes up on my feed. Really important thing is to follow people that are standing up for Palestine, to like their post. It feels so horrific when you're liking something horrific. But if you see it as a button to press against what the Israeli government are doing, that's how I do it, to save it, because this is all going to be really important for cases when they come to court down the line, maybe even to 100 years' time, they'll still be bringing people to court, hopefully, and to share the post. Now, when you share the posts, so you share onto your stories. Lots of people don't know this. So if you're seeing something on somebody's feed, the little arrow over on the left, click on that, add it to your story and add the link for that post. That is a very powerful thing you can do to share the post, but follow good people.
Well,
because you don't want to be posting anything that isn't the truth. It's really important that you look and look again, and make sure.
And therein lies a whole heap of don't get, you can't pretend. There's lots of disinformation out there. There's lots of scams.
On both sides.
There's lots of scams going on out there too, on both sides, so don't be drawn into, a very small account that's saying that it doesn't necessarily, unfortunately, you do kind of need to look for numbers. You do need to look for verified accounts. You do need to check the hashtags, have a look at who's commenting, have a look at who's also following those accounts. But also something that we filmed a little clip of it yonks ago, but I don't know if we failed to put it up. There are settings in your Instagram, the default settings in your Instagram app.
This is fascinating.
Basically hold back certain types of news, and you have to go into your settings to change your visibility settings, to change what is shown to you. Now, that doesn't mean you're not gonna suddenly see, though I have to confess I did last night, but that was because I was already following someone and I hit play on something that did say disturbing footage. And when I clicked on it, that was when all of the footage that I saw came through. Thank God. Again, Motaz was the first mover on this. He was the first mover on this, Motaz. Motaz is a great, great account to follow. 17 million followers, Time Magazine's top 100 most influential people. And as he said, I couldn't give a monkey's jollop about that. What about the people of Palestine?
Because it meant nothing. They gave me that and they asked me nothing. Motaz, listen, what we'll do is go to our accounts as well and look at who we're following.
Jewish Voice for Peace.
Jewish Voice for Peace, Justice for Peace, Middle East Eye, Middle East Monitor, Al Jazeera English, follow all of those.
And keep your comments coming in underneath this too. It is we try to keep this as safe a space as possible for people to share in their feelings, their emotions, and their upset.
Miriam, sorry. Nadia, from one Arab to another, can I just say?
As you say, free Palestine, Miriam. Save Palestine. I mean, literally. The bit. Can I just finally say just something? The bit that really gets me is the slow, ineluctable, constant use of words like "we're concerned," "we're worried." Nothing has changed. Words are useless. Words are meaningless from these suits in the White House and 10 Downing Street. Absolutely useless. I'm now looking to Europe. Again, even Germany today is stepping in the right direction, and they've been a huge kind of, supporter in a sense of some of the sort of more egregious moments in this crisis. So anyway,
big hugs to you all.
All right, guys, have a good day. Keep sharing, keep talking to each other. I'm gonna